Hello everyone, NoC here, aka Icon7, and yeah, it's finally here, a guide on how to play Survivor or be as efficient, or how to loop more efficiently in Dead by Daylight. I had many people requesting me on making a guide on my movement and how I loop and what's on my mind when I'm looping a killer. Just some quick information before I get into this guide. I played Dead by Daylight since 2017, just a little bit after it got released on console. I have about 9,000 hours, so when it comes to looping or playing as efficient, it's safe to say that I know quite a bit. So what I'm about to show in this video is how to look behind you and keeping track of a killer, how to connect loops and loop as efficient as possible, how to pallet vacuum, how to keep resources on a map for a longer amount of time, as well as how to get yourself out of a dead zone in a safe way, and many more small details. I'm playing on a PlayStation 4, but if you're playing on a PC, mobile, Xbox, or any other device or platform, it doesn't really matter, since this tutorial is mainly focused on how to survive, how to provide more time for your teammates, as well as how to loop efficiently. So I put quite a lot of time into making this tutorial, so I would really appreciate it if you could press that subscribe button. And yeah, I don't want to keep this intro too long. Let's get straight into it. Okay, so the first and most important thing I'd like to cover up, and that is looping efficiently. Now, when it comes to looping, it's important to know that you're looping every obstacle very tightly. Doing so, you will get the most out of every loop, as well as you will save a lot more resources on the map. How it's done is pretty simple. It's pretty much looping and hugging a obstacle. Now, this has nothing to do with the sensitivity, as well as if you're playing on a mouse, keyboard, or a controller. This has more to do with the player itself. Now, it's all about getting used to it, because I have many people asking me in the comments as well, saying what sensitivity I'm playing on. I'm playing on a 100, as well as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, because it really has nothing to do with the sensitivity. Now, I play on 100%. There are people who play on 60 who can also loop efficiently. I have videos on my channel where I played on 60, 70, 80, 90% sensitivity, and I was still looping efficiently, all because it's muscle memory. And muscle memory is something that you can't teach, but it's something that you will develop yourself, and it's pretty much like getting used. Now, if you keep looping like more and more, you will feel it. You will feel that you can loop more and more efficiently, hugging loops without getting stuck, whether you are on a 60% sensitivity or a 100%. Now, currently I play on a 100. I wish they would add something that can increase it and be more than 100, because, as I said, if you get more used to a certain sensitivity, it becomes just normal again. And that is the same thing. I've been there. I played on 60%, I played on 70, I was looping super efficient, whether it doesn't matter what the sensitivity was, because once again, I had many people in the comments telling me, what's my sensitivity? My sensitivity is 100, but the best thing what I would recommend you is probably if you play on 60 or 70%, it's always good to build up. Now, in my opinion, 100% is the best sensitivity, since it's so high. Well, if you get used to it, it's not even high anymore, but it's really good against killers. I would recommend you to build up. If you play on 60 and you want to play on a higher sensitivity, try 70 next time. And then after a few games, try 80. And you will see that you will get used to it, and it will feel so weird, but at some point, you will play and you will be like, well, this sensitivity is so low, I need to increase it. And by that time, you will be at 100 and you will be like, oh wow, I can't increase it anymore. It's so weird, and I can't really explain it. But once again, it's muscle memory, and you can't really teach muscle memory. It's more something that you develop yourself. So the second most important thing is looking behind you and looking where the killer is at all times. Now, I'm not saying that you have to look behind you every second to see where the killer is. I'm just saying that it's very important to know where the killer is sometimes, and to recognize and memorize their pathing, because this is so important. Like, memorizing a killer's movement is really important when it comes to looping, since you can take advantage out of that. Don't get me wrong, killers can take advantage of survivors as well when they're not looking behind them, so it's really important to always keep track of the killer. Now, the killer has a red stain. It's important to always keep your eyes on that red stain, no matter what you're looping, because the red stain is pretty much telling you in which direction the killer is looking. When you're looping obstacles as shack or jungle gyms, pretty much like obstacles where you can lose line of sight, the killer will try and take advantage of that by moonwalking and trying to hide their red stain so you won't know in which direction they are coming from. It's a really simple trick that killers do when survivors are not looking behind them, so that's why it's always important to look behind you, keeping track on the red stain, because I mean, I don't think we all want to get mind gamed by such a simple trick by just hiding the red stain or moonwalking. Now I will add something there as well when it comes to looping efficient and looking behind you, and that is baiting a pallet drop. I feel like it fits perfectly when it comes to looping efficiently since you're saving a lot more resources. There is a thing called the micro fake, and that is like faking a pallet drop by a simple movement. And I've seen people call it the micro fake, even though you can just say fake pallet drop, or like, you know, baiting a pallet drop, and you can do it with many things. You can do it with a flashlight as well, but you can also do it with a simple little movement trick. So while you approach the pallet, if you want to bait it, simply do a micro fake, and you can do it as well with a flashlight by clicking your flashlight inside the pallet, or you can do it by doing a 360 inside of the pallet. There's many things that you can do to confuse the killer for that half a second to make them respect the pallet, so you can get more distance and you will get the most out of every loop. So if you combine all of these three, looking behind you, looping efficiently, as well as micro faking, you will get the most out of every loop almost every single time. There is also something which is called the pallet vacuum, and I don't want to include this in the efficient looping. I kind of want to talk about this separately, but it's pretty much pretending that you will loop or go for another loop, but then vacuum back to the pallet and dropping it. So to explain it better, let's say the killer is pretty far away, but you can't make it another time around the loop because let's say the killer is Bloodlust level 3, so you can't make it around the loop, but he's still pretty far away. Then the best thing what you can do is going for a pallet vacuum, which is pretty much pretending that you will go for another loop, but you will actually vacuum back to the pallet and dropping it. Now, don't get me wrong, I could have dropped the pallet right now. As you can see, it shows me the option to pull down the pallet, but why would I drop the pallet right now and not get the stun? Instead, I'm just going to go for a pallet vacuum. So I'm just going to take 2 more steps forward and then drop it just so the killer can get a little bit closer and I can get the stun. So this is the whole point of a pallet vacuum. Now, if this was a unsafe pallet and I would have dropped the pallet right now, the killer can just go around it and hit me and kill me. Because unsafe pallets, I mean, killer can just easily go around it and down you, especially when they are bloodlusted. But because this is a safe pallet, there is actually no problem by just dropping it instantly. But it's always better to get the stun. There is one more last thing I'd like to mention when it comes to pallets and not wasting resources, and that is camping pallets. Now, I don't have any clips of that since you just shouldn't camp pallets, you know? It's the worst thing you can do as survivor. Let's take Shack pallet as an example. Now, Shack is a really strong obstacle, and if used correctly, you can loop a killer for a pretty long time. However, if you camp Shack pallet and you drop it in less than 2 seconds, you pretty much wasted so much time that you could have looped the killer at Shack alone. So camping Shack pallet and dropping it instantly is really beneficial for the killer because they pretty much got rid of one of the strongest pallets in the game in less than 2 seconds. And this is not what we want. We want to, the whole point of playing survivor and looping efficiently is to waste as much time of the killer so you can provide much time for your teammates. So the best thing what you should do, and that is, if you're not sure that you will make a pallet or not, the best thing what you can do is to just take the hit and take distance. Now let's say the killer is really close to you and he's about to hit you, but you're still not sure if he's going to hit you or not. The best thing is to not drop the pallet, because there is a high chance that you will drop the pallet and you will still get hit. If you do so, then you wasted the pallet and the killer got you injured. But if you just take the hit, you waste no distance and you can make it to another safe area. Now let's say you're injured and the killer is close to you and you're not sure if you're about to go down or not. It's still better to just not drop the pallet because there is a high chance that you will drop it and still go down. Now if you don't drop it, then you will just go down in between the pallet, and it's a lot easier for your teammates because they can maybe save you with the pallet. So it's always better to just not drop the pallet. Of course, if it's like an insta-down killer like Booba or Billy and they're pretty close, and you know, they like to use their chainsaw, you know, you can try and go for a pallet vacuum. Don't just drop it. Wait, try and have nerves of steel. I know it's like scary against a insta-down killer, but if you drop a pallet against a Booba or a Billy instantly, they can just break it instantly with their chainsaw as well. So the best thing is to try and time it, get a pallet vacuum, as I showed you before, how a pallet vacuum looked like. Take 2 steps in front of the pallet, let them get close, drop the pallet, and get the stun. So you can get distance, because it's always good to get distance against a insta-down killer. The next thing I'd like to cover up is connecting loops. Just like what we've seen before with efficient looping, as well as not wasting many resources, the whole point of connecting loops is to not waste much resources. So when you connect loops, you're pretty much making it a lot harder for a killer to catch you. And it's also a lot more frustrating for killers. Now, how many times have you heard killers say, this RNG, this map RNG was insane, or they got lucky with the RNG? That's because if you have a good RNG as survivor, and you know how to loop, then you're pretty much making it a nightmare for killers to catch you, since killers hate good survivors around good obstacles. Because let's say you have Shack next to a jungle gym, next to a long pallet, the killer is just gonna leave you. If the killer is good enough, he will just leave you, because they know for sure that if you're a good survivor, you won't go down in between these strong structures, you know? So that's why connecting loops is so strong, since you can just save resources. You can go for the window, from the window you can go around that pallet once, you can go back in the jungle gym, from jungle gym window you can turn back into Shack window, from Shack window you can go around the pallet, you can go around the other pallet, like, you know, you can just keep going like this for the rest of the game. You can pretty much like loop a killer for 5 gens if it's a very strong map. Let's take Cowshed as an example. Cowshed has some insane RNG every single time. Cowshed is an extremely strong survivor map. So if you have Cowshed with a good survivor, you can pretty much loop a killer for a very long time, no matter how good the killer is. I mean, the RNG, nothing beats a strong RNG. But yeah, you hear about connecting loops, and it's so strong, and it's so fun. But to connect loops, you also have to have experience in looping. But what I would recommend you is, let's say you're on a gen near a pallet, what I would recommend, and this is something I used to do as well, and it helped every single time, and that is, for example, let's say I'm working on a gen near a pallet, I'm going to check my environment. I'm going to see what pallets and windows I have around me. So if the killer comes to me, I'm pretty much running with a plan. I know what I'm doing. I know that I don't have to drop that pallet. I know I can go around it. I know I can go, after I go around it, I can go for that window without even wasting the pallet. And then I can go back to the pallet and then drop it. So you're already like planning a whole like scenario on what you're about to do. And that is really good. So it's always good to plan what you're about to do, especially when you're on the gen. But you can also do it while looping, and this is something that I do every single time. When you're looping, try and look around you. Not every time, of course, but like let's say you're looking behind you, you're looking at the killer. It's always nice to also, while looking behind you at the killer, to see what pallets you're passing or what pallets there are on the map close to you, because you never know, you will go back to them and, you know, loop them all around these pallets, you know? So it's always good to just look around you and, you know, memorize your environment and see where you can go next. The next thing I like to cover up is finding yourself in a dead zone or open space. And Dead by Daylight time is really important. The longer you can keep a killer busy, the easier it will be for your teammates, because you can provide way more time for your teammates to do the objective. Now let's say you're getting chased by a killer, but there is no pallets, there is no windows, and the only thing you have is the edge of the map. Now the edge of the map is really underrated, and not many people play around it. They just ignore the edge of the map. Yet it's so strong, and you can waste a killer's time for so long. Now let's say you're playing against a killer, you have no pallets, there is no windows, but the only thing you have is a Z-wall or a U-wall. It's still better to loop the killer on a Z-wall or U-wall. Be completely unpredictable with your movement. Go for a window fake, try and vault the window, go around it a few times. Just be as completely unpredictable as possible, because you will still waste more time of a killer than just running in the open and going down. Now don't get me wrong, if you're playing against a M1 killer, or you know, like Trapper or Wraith, killers that don't have an insta-down, what you can do as well, and that's the second option, and that is you can just take the hit in the open and just, you know, move and make it to another safe area. But you can't do that if you're injured. If you're injured, the best thing you can do is to play around the edge of the map. And you can't also do it against insta-down killers. Now, tell me what's better. Is it better to just run straight against an insta-down killer and go down, or go to the edge of the map and play around a window against an insta-down killer, forcing him to M1U so you can take distance to another safe area? It's always better to just play around the edge of the map. But that doesn't only apply on Z walls and U walls. You can also do it with trees and rocks. Now let's say you're playing against a nurse, then trees and rocks are your best friend. If you're playing against a huntress, it's the same thing. If you find yourself in an open space, try and take the advantage of using anything you have in front of you. Even if it's just a simple small object, use it, because it's still better than just being in the complete open and not using it. Each tile in the open is way better than just nothing. Always keep that in mind. If you have nothing, you're in a dead space, killer is chasing you, even if it's just a simple small rock in front of you, go around it. Go around it, and you never know. You never know, a killer will miss his attack, miss his chainsaw, bump into the tree. You just never know, and you can take way more distance if it does work out. There is an interesting one which is called a window vacuum, and just like the pallet vacuum, it's pretty much like not letting them know your next move. It's like confusing the killer in which direction you will turn, and it works the best in jungle gyms as well as in shack. Now I do have some examples in my video where I was 1v1ing a toxic killer main, and you will see what I mean by that. Now as you can see, I'm in this jungle gym looping him. Now once I'm turning the corner right here, it looks like I'm about to go for the pallet, but I'm actually going to go for the window. Now if the killer is looking at you and he sees you going for the pallet, then most likely they will double back, but then you will just flick back into the window. But also, if you make it look obvious that you're going for the window, then the killer will just go around it and probably get a hit on you. Same thing right here. It looks like I'm about to turn the corner, but then I flick back into the window. Now if I made it look obvious that I'm going for the window, then the doctor was just going to go around it and catch up way quicker. But because I pretended to go around the corner, I made the doctor get close, and then I vaulted the window, which made it so the doctor had no other option than go all the way back around. And that is what I mean with a window vacuum. It's like pretending you will go a certain direction, but then you will vacuum back into the window. Here was another example where I made it look obvious that I was going for the window, just so I can make the killer go all the way around, wasting his time. It's also important to know that there is a slow vault, medium vault, and a fast vault. Now while you're getting chased, it's always better to have a fast vault, since it's less likely that you will get hit. But sometimes you will have those tight angles, and to counter this, you will simply just flick your character facing the window. You don't even need to flick your camera. It's important to flick your character facing the window to get a fast vault from a tight angle. Right here, I had no other option than going for a medium vault, but even though both of my feet were inside shack, I still went down. Now don't get me wrong, it's not always that you can go for a fast vault, because for a fast vault you need to know the distance between you and the killer, so you can actually go for a fast vault. But if you do feel like you can go for a fast vault, then always go for it, since it will always benefit. I also want to add a trick into this guide, and it's a trick which is so simple yet so effective. And for those who have been watching me, probably know what I'm talking about, and it's called the FOV tag or fake dead hard. Now the FOV tag or fake dead hard is such a simple yet such a effective trick, and it works the best if you're injured and you have dead hard. Now if you're injured and you have dead hard, we're talking about a fake dead hard tag. Now if you're not injured, we're more likely talking about a FOV tag. The tag that I'm talking about is what you can see in the background, but I will also show you the difference between a FOV tag and not being injured and a fake dead hard, because it's not quite the same. I chose to add this tag into this guide because I know I could have added 360, moonwalking, and all of that stuff, you know. Fake 360 tag is also a really good one, but I chose to add this one because this is actually a lifesaver, and I've seen so many people saying that this literally saved them, and it really is. It's such a simple yet such an effective trick, and I still like, I can't believe like how well this works, because it's just so good, you know. Out of all the tags, I really wanted to add this one because you will see why after I'm, you know, done with the explanation. But I will show you the difference between a FOV tag and not being injured with a fake dead hard. Starting off with a fake dead hard. Now a fake dead hard only works when you're injured. If you're injured and a killer gets close, they won't swing. They will always wait 1 second until you use Dead Hard, and then they will hit you, because they know that if you manage to use Dead Hard correctly, you could make it to a safe area and loop the killer for a even longer time. But they will always wait a 1 second, so they don't risk it. But while they are waiting that 1 second, what you're supposed to do is a 360 in front of them. That's the only thing you have to do. You have Dead Hard, don't use it. Let the killer get close, and then do a 360 turn in front of the killer. Doing so will confuse the killer, and the killer will think, wait, they just used Dead Hard, so now I can just swing and down them. But in fact, you just faked it, so you still have Dead Hard. So after you've done the 360 and the killer got confused, just wait 1 more second and then use Dead Hard. They will 100% swing because they wouldn't expect it. They already think you used it, but you actually still have it. And that is why it's called a fake Dead Hard. Now let's talk about the FOV tag. FOV stands for field of view, and this tag is pretty much abusing a killer's field of view. I know abusing sounds so evil, but it really isn't. So what it basically is, it's pretty much like a fake Dead Hard where you do a 360 in front of the killer, but you just don't have it. You just don't have Dead Hard. And you can also do it while being not injured. So that's why it's called an FOV tag, because you can do it while not being injured, and you can also do it without even having Dead Hard. And it works the best if you turn a corner. And there's actually somewhere on YouTube where I've seen people call it the jump scare tag. And I kind of do understand why they call it the jump scare tag. It's because the moment you turn a corner, you start doing a 360 in front of the killer, which will make them panic, and they will just swing and 80-90% of the time miss. I guess that's why people call it the jump scare tag, even though I like to call it the FOV tag. But yeah, it's pretty much like doing a 360 in front of the killer, except you don't have Dead Hard and you can do it without being injured. So yeah, doing this trick correctly always gives you so much distance, and you can make it to a safe area almost every single time. And I'm actually going to add the fake 360 as well. So the fake 360, as you can hear it, it's pretty much pretending to go for a 360. Now, we all know what 360 is. Clicking your flashlight, going around the killer. You can do it without clicking your flashlight as well. But when it comes to the fake 360, it works the best when you do it with a flashlight. So how it works is, if you're getting chased and you see the killer is getting close, you start clicking your flashlight, pretending you will turn around the killer, but then actually not turn. Now, if you do so, most killers expect you to go behind them, so they start panic swinging. But in fact, you just fake it. You just don't go behind them, and you keep running straight. Once again, a super easy trick, but yet so effective. As well as something called the zigzag, which is also a super simple yet effective trick. There's so many simple and effective tricks if I think about it. But yeah, the zigzag is pretty much, if you getting chased by a killer, the killer is getting close, you start moving left and right super quick, which will make a killer swing almost every single time, which is just insane. I really wanted to add these 4 tags as well, since they are so simple yet so effective. So it's pretty much the fake Dead Hard, FOV tag, fake 360, as well as the zigzag. The next thing I want to show is flashlight saves, since it's also something that could help out your team. So I want you to know that a killer makes 2 pickups. The first pickup is from the ground to their waist, and the second pickup is from their waist to their shoulder. And if you can see them picking up from the ground to their waist, that's not where you have to flashlight save. You have to start flashlight saving the moment they push the survivor to their shoulder. That's where you have to start blinding. And that is how you can get the perfect timing. Now, keep in mind that this is probably the sharpest angle you could flashlight save. I know that this looks like unfair for the killer, but the reason why I got the flashlight save is because I moved my character all the way in front of the huntress. Now, as you can see right here, I moved right in front of her face just so I can get the flashlight save. Now, there are some killers with a difficult pickup timing, but with the dredge it's the same thing, except the second pickup is not on his shoulder but on his chest size. Now, as you can see, he does 2 pickups. First one is to the waist, second one to the chest. Same thing with Sadako. It's a difficult pickup timing, but as you can see, first pickup is from the ground and the second pickup is to her shoulder. Now, always remember, start blinding when they do their second pickup. Here is my perspective. As you can see, this blind is pushing me to his shoulder, and that is where they have to start blinding. I also want to go throughout my settings, since many were interested in that as well, but it's pretty much all default and nothing special. So when it comes to the general settings, it's all default. I do play crossplay on. A personal opinion is because I just enjoy it. So when it comes to the colorblind settings, it's all default. I'm not colorblind, so it's all default. When it comes to the audio, I use 40% on main volume. That's just because, I don't know, I have a headset where I could adjust the volume myself, so that's why it's on 40%. This may sound low to many of you, but it's actually perfect for me. Another reason why I have this headset is because it has cat ears. Yes, I love cat ears. I'm a cat boy, so what's your problem now, huh? What are you gonna do now? Give me milk? But yeah, when it comes to the, of course, to the controls, I use 100% sensitivity on Survivor. I use 65% sensitivity on Killer if you were interested in that as well. And when it comes to the bindings, the key bindings, it's all default. Like, I use the same keybinds since 2017. Nothing has changed. And also, like, quickly, I play on controller. This is all settings on a controller. A PlayStation 4 controller, if I have to be more specific. I also want to talk about the build when it comes to surviving longer. And in my opinion, yes, you can slap on DS, Unbreakable, Dead Hard, BT, and you know, you can just play with the current meta. But that's not the case. I mean, you can pretty much win with almost every single build. You always have to think, how many times is this perk gonna come and play? With that being said, it's always nice to have a build which will help you out in almost every situation in the game. To be more specific, there is 4 perks that you can use with Survivor. And instead of using 4 altruistic perks, or 4 gen perks, or 4 exhaustion perks, I hope I never see someone running 4 exhaustion perks. But yeah, instead of running 4 of the same perks, run 4 different perks. And with that, I mean, it's always important to have a perk which will help you out in a chase. A exhaustion perk. You can use any exhaustion perk that you like. In my opinion, I like to run Dead Hard. The second perk is a perk which will help out your team. There is many perks that could help out your team. Borrow Time, Prove Thyself, We Will Make It. It's important to have a perk which will help out your team. The third perk is a perk which will heal yourself. So there is many healing perks. You have Inner Healing, Adrenaline, Self-Care. You can even run Bonds, even though it requires the help of another teammate, but still it's something that could help you get healed. And the fourth perk is a utility perk, and with a utility perk I mean a perk as Decisive Strike, Iron Will, Bond if you want as well, Unbreakable. It's good that you have a perfect build that could help you out in any situation in the game. If your teammates are in trouble, you have BT. If you are in trouble, you have DS. If you need to get healed, well, you can heal yourself, or you have Adrenaline, or you can slap on a medkit. And if you're getting chased and you want to extend the chase, or you find yourself in a difficult situation, well, then you have an exhaustion perk. It's always nice to have a build which can help you out in almost every situation in the game. I also want to talk about Survivor items and Dead by Daylight. Now, medkits are without a doubt the strongest item in the game. And if I would have to recommend an item to a new Survivor, it will be 100% a medkit. Even with a simple brown medkit, you can heal yourself in 16 seconds. Now, let's say you don't have a medkit. That means your teammate needs to heal you, but then your teammate is also wasting 16 seconds in healing you. But if you have a medkit, your teammate can just stay on a gen while you can heal yourself and just waste 16 seconds. But that is with a brown medkit with no add-ons. Let's say you have a Boon Totem as well. Boon Totem with a green medkit with add-ons, I think you can heal yourself in 5 or 6 seconds. So yeah, medkits are without a doubt the strongest item in the game. But there is a few items that is a lot stronger against certain killers. Like for example, Hag. If you have a flashlight against a Hag, you can pretty much deny all her power by just burning her traps. Same thing with Nurse. You can burn a Nurse when she's blinking towards you. But yeah, it all depends on which killer you're going up against. But overall, in general, medkits are extremely strong. You can literally go in a game with no healing perks, just a medkit, and that will be more than enough. The last thing I want to mention is a lot of new survivors don't know which survivor they should play first, but I would recommend you to play Mag and Claudette since they both have pretty good perks for beginners as well as pretty good perks to evade a killer. Mag has some good perks where you can escape a killer in a chase, and Claudette has some good perks where you can pretty much heal yourself. And not only that, but the real reason why I'm playing Claudette is because she's very small. And you know, when you're small, it's harder for a killer to detect you. As well as the cosmetics that I'm wearing. I'm wearing a dark outfit, which is pretty hard for a killer to see you. It gives you a small advantage. It's not a huge advantage, but it's still a small advantage. I don't know why, but when I play with small characters, it feels so much more smooth. Maybe that's just me, but yeah, whenever I play small characters, it feels so much smooth. As well as Fang. Fang and Claudette are pretty much the same size. Yeah, they are pretty small and it's a lot harder for a killer to see you. As well as there are some offerings that are useful for new survivors. As you can see, a Shroud of Binding, which will make you start the trail with all other survivors. A Shroud of Union, which will make you start the trail with someone else. And a Vigo's Jar, which will make you start the trail as far as possible from the killer. And yeah, so that's that. That's the guide. I really hope this tutorial was helpful. I really hope you learned at least something out of it. I really enjoyed making this. I'm thinking because I always feel like I forgot something. But yeah, I tried to cover up all the important things that could actually help you out in a chase and help you out escape a chase as well as survive. I know I didn't mention 360 or moonwalking or Aaron teching. I will leave a link in the description to all of these tutorials down below. Because it's not something that could actually help you in a chase or survive. It's still something nice to do, but it's not something that could, like, you know, help you in a chase or, you know, escape a killer. So, but I will still leave a link in the description to all of my 360 tutorials, Aaron tech tutorials, moonwalking tutorials, and but yeah, when it comes to movement, controls, sensitivity, nothing has changed in the Aaron tech or 360 or moonwalking. It's all the same still to this day. If you enjoyed watching this video, if you think it was helpful, if you learned something out of it, I would really appreciate it if you could scroll down and hit the subscribe button as well as the like button. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Thank you all so much for watching, and see you in the next one. Take care.